Hey everybody, and welcome back to another RCT2 review. Today we are reviewing the first park in round 7, match number 3. This is Highlands. This was a Logan's Run park from my team, and I am joined by the majority share builder here, Zarathustra. Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so this was a collaboration between you and AJ and Mavericks, but you sort of
Mhm.
carried the concept and idea and really the majority of this here. What got you started on a weed-themed park?
It was just kind of a goofy idea that I pitched really early, like the first day basically of head to head. It's something I'd been thinking about doing for a while, and I actually did the concept before like a year ago, like in a much less refined way.
I think it
And
was
honestly, I'd say, yeah,
I think it was fun because we kind of did a couple of these things with Logan's Brewery. So we had the beer theme, and then we have this one here with the
yeah.
weed theme. So it was kind of fun going through this. And I think it turned out pretty nice in the end.
I will say I pitched this idea before Logan's Brewery was ever discussed. So if
So you get
anyone
first
is
dibs.
keeping track of who the original is.
Well, why don't we jump into the park first, and then we'll look at the outskirts from there. So the
Sure.
idea, if I remember right, was this is sort of a California town where this sort of a Knott's Berry Farm esque approach, where it's got an actual weed farm that's decided they wanted to put up some rides.
Yeah, that's basically it. And we actually talked about setting it in Weed, California, which is in Northern California, and it has a sign very much like the one in the park entrance that says Weed.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
remember that. That's funny.
and that, yeah, yeah, ultimately, I don't think that was really conveyed in the end, but that is based on a real thing, a real sign that says that. And yeah, I mean, that's very based. I definitely was going for some kind of realism in a weird way because that Northern California is the main, place that product is produced in the
Nice.
United States. So
Well,
that's kind of why we
so
set it there.
So you got a pretty nice collection of rides in here, and a lot of just kind of fun references throughout the whole thing. Let's look at the coasters first because they kind of jump out to me. We have our Gravity Group switchback style coaster here, the Indica Express. Love the THC here on the big tower.
Uh,
This was one of the first things that dropped into the park.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty early when we first I first started developing the idea with AJ early on because for a long time it was just me and him. Mav kind of joined at the end, but yeah, I mean, this was a ride I really wanted to do. Like, I had a lot of different like hacking ideas that came into head to head with, and this was, I feel like, one of the less crazy ones, but one that I just felt like really easily could fit into a realistic park, and specifically like a smaller park that would want like a cheaper coaster. So I really wanted to do this, and
Full custom
yeah,
supports too.
I love doing like custom supports, and yeah, I'm really happy, to get to do it and kind of get a chance to do like a layout that's a little bit different than like the real one and kind of goes with the terrain and stuff.
I loved this layout. I think this one turned out really nice. The terrain, like you said, really kind of makes it what it is. I love this bridge here crossing over top of the two tracks. I think it's just turns out really cool. And actually, I'm kind of impressed by how seamless the RMC kind of spike tower looks with the rest of the thing. Like it actually really turned out smooth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the THC letters, it's funny because that's based on the real switchback that says ZDT, and Mr. Brightside on our team actually suggested adding some
clever.
letters there
I like it.
from the. Actually, I didn't even know the real one had those.
I love our couch themed ride here in the middle, the spinner.
Yeah, yeah, those were made by those. vehicles were made by Ayrton on the team that we ended up playing, which I thought was kind of funny to
That is funny.
use
This
their
is
CTR against them.
well, this is one of the proper uses of this kind of thing. I don't know how more accurate you're going to get for for that than something like this. Uh, Love the Q stuff all throughout. Kind of jumping back to this one here, just the think green here with the wind turbines and just the kind of cool mural art on the side and just all the different nice little murals that you have throughout the park.
Yeah, that was mostly AJ, that Q, and I think he did a great job. I think that was one of the first parts of the park that was actually like done in a close to a finished state, and
Mm-hmm.
he really helped kick it off.
And this was another ride that you hacked as well. This is sort of a circle vision type, like Carousel of Progress at Disney. I think I threw that out there as a dark ride option initially, and then you took and ran with it. And so it stops at the scenes and rotates around. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think you're the one who suggested that, and yeah, as soon as I found out about it, I was like, oh, I kind of want to do that
Mm-hmm.
because I
And
like the
then
idea of kind of a fictional like history of different
different weed
time
emblems.
periods of weed.
Well, and the Frozen
Kind of
staff are
silly.
just immaculate through here. There's just so many really funny things like across
Yeah,
the whole park. I know we won't get to them all here, so it's worth the download to just find all the just fun stuff. Um,
yeah, really loaded it up during kind of the long kind of polishing stage of this park of just
mhm.
adding more and more reference. Because very early on, I felt like the park had just come out like a very generic realism that didn't even really feel like it had too much of the theme in it. And then it was just like went the exact opposite direction and just kind of kept loading on more and more kind of references and
Well,
somewhat silly stuff.
I think that's what kind of gave it life in the end. Just these really kind of clever, fun ideas that kind of told all these little stories through the whole thing. So I think it was a good strategy to go back through and add all those. Um,
Mm.
but here we've got our big coaster, 420 Blaze It, of course. I feel like it, or Rail Blaze It, I suppose. So that was
Yeah,
A, funny, and B, a good play on Railblazer at California. So, like that. Cool terrain again, and neat layout.
yeah. The layout was me and AJ, and honestly, a lot of feedback from you really helped make it what it is, and I'm really happy with it. And I was really determined to somehow make that way it interlocks with the other coaster work,
Mhm.
and I'm glad we kind of got to that.
Yeah, that turned out really nice. I love this first inversion. I love the artwork on the leaf up top. I think that's pretty cool. Uh, and then the way that the queue kind of runs through the sign and everything with the flames coming up. That's cool. So if you cross the bridge over here, we get to a bunch of other hacked rides. So you've got your Super Loop here, which is sort of one of your staples. I feel like.
Yeah, I like that one. Done it more than once.
And then Nug Grinder here, and then a fan favorite, at least from the comments anyway, is the Sour Diesel slow carts, which I think is funny.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that really made this park kind of more fun for me, and like when it kind of felt like it came together creatively, is I was just I don't know, I was just thinking one day, I was like, oh my god, what if they were go-karts but they were really slow because everyone was like too high and they like didn't want to, they weren't in a hurry, to win the race because they were just like relaxed. And then
It's fantastic.
that just kind of, and this area of the park is, if there's any other park that's my favorite, it's probably this one because I feel this is the area I think
Yeah,
I
it's
know I did the
developed
most
really
of.
well.
And it just, I had so little CSO experience at all before this park. I'd mostly just kind of done like little things here and there to help out with other people's parks, CSO wise, but like, yeah, I don't know. So just this, I feel like building this area is when it really kind of clicked for me.
Yeah, and this was a neat thing to see all this kind of come together because you had this sort of carnival esque area up high, and then you sort of drop down. So we had this. And I know you guys had talked about doing some sort of like tour of the weed fields, and that kind
Hmm.
of morphed its way into the sky ride, which I thought was a clever usage of that, and also to showcase the terrain that you're sitting right here, kind of flat on the ground, and then you drop off around it and come on down pathway wise, and then
Hmm.
up top you've got the sky right above, and then of course your weed fields down here, which are chock full of clickable stuff. I think is funny.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there's a whole storyline about somebody losing their wife, and then they send Steve up the ladder to find the wife, but then uh, he forgets why he's up there because he's high.
Here, here's the whole thing here in a couple of clickables, and just the amount of stuff that
And
is
I feel
in
like
here.
the amount of detail in this park, I feel like almost no one is gonna even notice it, but it was worth it for, I don't know, because I enjoyed it.
Well, and I think it increases replayability and just looking at everything. Because I remember, personally, when you guys had first put in this big maze here, I thought, wow, that's really
Mhm.
cool, but also it takes up a fair bit of the map for just like a maze. Are you gonna layer in
Yeah,
some stuff? And then you're like, hang on, here we come, and it's just like
yeah,
all like completely covered in there, and it looked awesome.
yeah.
Um,
And Mavericks, he came in really late, but that was one of the areas that he came in and really helped polish up and add a lot of stuff to it. So it was, because before that, it was just kind of like this big macro-y thing that, yeah, it took up a huge amount of space, but he really helped load in the detail.
love the dog petting area.
Yeah, that was AJ's idea.
Funny in a lot of the booths here, and then you've got your weed museum here with all the different kinds. So that's funny.
Yeah, there ended up being references to our other parks simply because I just thought Blue Pearl sounded like the name of a weed strain.
That sounds about right.
So,
I can't fault that. And then actually we'll carry over too because we have this little underground area here. Which let me grab the cutaway here and pull it down to see this. This was something that you kind of added pretty last minute, actually.
yeah, well, I wasn't sure what week this park was going to go. I kept kind of trying to convince Steve to put it out earlier because I just kind of wanted to get it over with and move on with my life. But he wanted it week 7, so once week 6 was over and I knew we weren't going then, I was like, well, I guess I'll just add more stuff because it was almost done and we had an extra like week and a half. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll just add this whole crazy underground thing.
Personal favorite here is the spacesuit guys here in the top with the Chernobyl reference with the Dosavita
Oh
reads
yeah.
420
Okay,
rotogems, not
yeah.
great, not terrible.
Yeah, I just watched that show and was like, "Oh my god, I have to make a reference to
It's fantastic. I was on the floor with that one. That was the first time I saw it. It was great. But you got this pretty cool ride in here. Kino's built some custom set point suspended cars here, drop in the water and everything. It's kind of a fun space under here, detailed up
this."
very nicely as it went along.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff in this park that I built, I feel like I have to give a lot of credit to the rest of the team. Just kind of, yeah, poking at me and being like, "Build this, like, put in more detail, whatever." And like Steve, I like, for instance, like I know did like a good like reference little thing that helped me with that. And
Well, I mean,
I love
I
that
think
Kenos
it's.
did what.
Oh,
Oh
good.
yeah,
No good.
I was gonna say I love that Kenos did with that ride vehicle where it actually splashes because I was just like very like, oh, we have to make it splash,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
He
wasn't sure
really
if it was gonna be possible, but
he,
eventually we did.
he turned that one out. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with how this one turned out with both you and with AJ not really doing a whole lot of custom scenery before head to head. That
Yeah,
that's kind of daunting when you just don't even know what pieces are out there. So it's like, where do you even
yeah,
begin? So pretty
yeah,
darn cool that you were able to turn it into something here, and you can definitely tell your comfort level got better as the park went on.
yeah, yeah. I feel a lot more comfortable, and I think AJ does too. Yeah.
So outside the park, we've got a couple of cool things with the storyline of this church here, right near the park, trying to fight against the weed, which I think is funny. They've got their own little
Hmm.
carnival out here, the cycle of addiction, the wrath of hellfire, the little kids ride, and the the spinning moral compass is very clever.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got your cutaway here in the church itself.
Yeah. This was AJ did most of this, like the church especially, and it turned out cool.
And you've got
I'm
all this
glad we were
other
able to make it work in the story.
got this other stuff underneath here with all these different areas as you kind of work your way down, which I think is fun.
Yeah.
And then another hack of yours, I believe, with the drop tower here down into the caves. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Happy with how that turned out. And I wanted to reuse that because that Kenos made that vehicle for the little kids drop tower on the
yeah,
other end of the
right over
park,
here.
and just kind of wanted to use it again and kind of take advantage of that higher cliff.
Yeah, it's a good space for it, and it's a nice use of the cutaway so that you really kind of have consistent cutaway through the sides here, and something you don't even have to use the actual cutaway for. You can still kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, the only one you really need to use the actual cutaway for is the underground lab one that we already looked
Mhm.
at. One of my
Yeah.
favorite details that's just goofy in the park is that little boat that's like stuck on the edge of the waterfall, like about to fall over.
I was gonna ask about that one because I wanted to hear what you had because there's the whitewater experience is out here,
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
whole park, which I think is kind of neat. And then there's this guy who's just like hopelessly lost in this cave.
Yeah, I just routed one of the boats over there and they're just kind of freaking out. Like if you click on the peeps, one of them says like, "Oh, I don't remember. It's like, "Oh, I'm having an anxiety attack" because they're just like on the edge of this cliff." Which
Here
is
you go, literally having a panic attack and shit. Fuck, fuck, fuck.
yeah.
Love it, love
So
it. And then you've got your signage here, the drugs kill, and then on the other side the CBD saves, and all these guys chilling in the hot tub and just
yeah.
hanging out. Nice uh, downward little hairpin turns here on the way down to the plaza itself. Couple cool things here. We've got the gay bar here, which has some fun details in there. You've got the a couple other little buildings, and then your hotel on this side, the Golden Kush. Again, using your nice piece there, which is fun, and
hmm
all the just different clickable ones. I like that there's a couple things here. So there's the place out back where they can sit, but then there's these guys who are up on the roof.
Yeah, yeah.
There's lots of
It's I don't know what to say about that. I just wanted to load the smoking peep object everywhere, just kind of I don't know, because I thought it was funny.
well, it speaks to the palette a little bit, the sort of washed out, sort of hazy palette. So that's,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
I
nice.
almost kind of regret the palette, honestly. I liked how it looked because for most of the time we built this park, it was just the regular default palette, and I kind of missed that. But
Yeah, you were a
I
pretty
like
big
this
proponent
palette
of
too.
that.
Yeah,
I like this for the fact that it definitely has that sort of haze feel to it, so it just adds that extra layer. But I
yeah,
can see
I do
both
like that.
ways. Um,
Yeah,
Again, nice sign. I love this California sign right there.
looks
And
like it's
then
glitching out a little bit or something,
yeah, maybe a
but
bit.
yeah,
And the star cush above, also clever.
yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. We're missing a lot of the
objects.
walls. That's interesting. Huh. Thinking that with the church too, because I could see through it.
Yeah,
That's strange. But yeah,
it's it's funny that California sign though. Uh, when me and AJ first started this park, and originally when we very first started it, it wasn't even like a head-to-head park. It was kind of just something I started building for fun because I wasn't. I don't know. I mean, the only head-to-head park I was on was the one with you, where we were gonna do like that 30s park, and it was
mm,
kind of uh, I don't know. It was going a little. I wasn't really sure what to build, so I kind of just started building this for fun. And like the first thing that we built, like AJ made this sign that said like California, And then like 2 months later, we needed something to fill that spot, and I reminded him, I was like, "Hey, you should put this in the park."
And I think it
It was
was
kind
kind
of
of
funny.
interesting seeing you guys build together because AJ has all these great ideas that are just totally disconnected, just like interesting thing here, interesting thing here, interesting thing there. So it was just a huge map of just stuff dotted all around. And then it was kind
Hmm.
of your task to take all that and bring it into something that made sense across the whole map. And I think you did a pretty nice job on that.
Yeah, and it was fun to do that too. And I think that it's funny because I think a lot of people see this park as just being like really silly, like, oh, weed park. But it's like I feel like there's actually like a lot of, you know, that's a a lot of different concepts kind of going into it of like, like
I'd say
the
so.
place making of California plus like the weed obviously, and then like the church and like the culture war, and somebody in the comments said like, oh, like that's kind of a cliche from like older head-to-head parks, and it's funny because like I didn't even know that, like the concept of like a park and then like a town that's like against the park.
Yeah,
Apparently
it's
that's been
it
done
is
before, but
funny.
I didn't really
I
even I literally like I just don't know the history of any well enough to even know that. So it's just kind of I don't know, this
yeah.
thing about this park I think is kind of old in style, and it was kind of fun to just do a park like that because I never got a chance to.
Yeah, it's got a very old school head to head vibe with the new school objects, new school hacking, and things like that, which I think kind of added to the charm of it for me, just because there was so much to see, and it's all the just kind of fun, clickable just things. I think I like some of the, I'll call them highbrow, just like real heavy narrative, super textural stuff that we've been seeing this season. But I think I really miss this sort of work where it's just a
Hmm.
fun park that's cool to look through, that's got a lot of interesting details, it's just got a lot of nicely put together stuff, but it still remembers the RCT sort of roots of it and does a nice job with that.
Yeah, and I like to think that we did get some stuff that was, I don't know, highbrow and somewhat. Well, I don't know, highbrow. It's funny because it's like, yeah, I feel like there's no way this is going to be perceived as serious as some of the parks, but I don't
Sure.
know. We had fun with what we did with it, and like I really love like AJ was just like, I want to build a church, and like I kind of love that like that stained glass window he did for it, and just kind of like the way it was just like a very like just a totally like religious scene that had nothing to do with the main theme of the park. But I feel like that's kind of like the point, and that's
Hmm.
kind of this thing that like added depth to it to me was that there was kind of these like loose ends here and there that weren't just focused on like, oh, silly weed park,
Yeah, I agree. I think that was really well done. Is there anything else you want to talk through?
um not too much. I mean, you mentioned objects. I gotta say I really love the rocks that we use in this that the Tulsamere
Hmm.
made. I hadn't really like seen many people using those, and so I was like very determined to kind of use them because I really liked the way they kind of you know gave that older kind of because it matches the original textures of the game.
Hmm.
And I just really I don't know, I just love those rocks, and I hope more people use them. But I kind of feel like they might not get used that much, but
Yeah, I
I kind
hope
of
to
hope
see
they
more
are.
of it. It definitely adds some verticality to um, what's often kind of hard to showcase in the game as far as just um, height height differences. I feel like it often doesn't look quite as big as it maybe ought to. But those rocks do a nice job of showcasing that, and I think they turned out nicely through the whole space because you've got a fair bit of landscape height change throughout the park.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing I would. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to do that because I feel like that I don't know, helps it to be more interesting than if it was just flat.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. and and for the most part it's all very readable, as in it's one layer, not a bunch of stacked stuff. Sure, there's some underground cutaway things you can have, but on the whole it's clean without being too dense.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I think it turned out nice, and we did take the win on this match, so spoiler alert on that one, but
Spoilers.
we'll get to the match or the next park here next time around. But well, thanks for joining. I think this is cool to get a good inside look on this one, and there's a lot of insight that I'm guessing people missed the first time around. So I think it hopefully this video spurred you to go back and download the park and try and find all the clickable stuff and enjoy all the little fun storylines.
And thanks for having me. It's a great honor to finally, be on this channel that I've watched for so long.
Well, thanks for showing up and talking about the park, and congrats on the head-to-head victory here. It's one in the books for the record, so there you go. All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you, sir, and we will catch you guys in the next one when we wrap up the round robin play and do our last video before the finals. So talk to you later, and thanks for watching. Bye now.